What is happening, everybody? It's your boy Jimmy James 59, and today putting on the hat, the baseball cap of knowledge, becoming the great JIMSTRADAMUS. If you're here watching this video, it's because you have been enticed by the legacy, by the brilliance, by all the predictions in the past that I've made that have come true. I want to do something here for you in this video today, folks. See, I don't make predictions. I predict gems, because my predictions are like gemstones, not runestones. We're not a rhinestone cowboy. We're not a runestone cowboy. I'm talking precious minerals. That's what these predictions are, folks. We're going to jump into this one, right? I'm going to tell you what I think the new civilizations, how they're going to change, right? I'm going to take a look at that, and I'm going to give you those predict gems, right? I've been right on some things before. Know that I have no inside knowledge. None, folks. None. I just have a genius level intellect. So let's jump into this. Now, the first thing that I want to say is this, right? These are not necessarily the things that I want to have happen to the game. These are just the things that I think will happen. And I'm going to give you a probability on these too, so you know how strong my psychic readings into the future actually are. Now let me tell you something, because I think that there is something that we want to consider here. The game is there's a balance to the balance of the game, and that's this: uniqueness versus balance. See, on the one hand, civilizations need to be unique. I mean, there's 42 of them. What's the point of having so many if they're all the same, right? But here's the thing. AoE 2 is a strategy game, foremost, right? Foremost a strategy game, then a history game. Nevertheless, we don't want civilizations that are too alike. Now, I've always loved the idea of a fake civilization. This is just an aside. I called them the Vanillars, right? Completely fake in my alternate history universe, that just have a completely like 100% open tech tree, but have no bonuses. I always wonder how civilization would do like that would do in the game. How do you think the Vanillars would do in the game? That's not a real word, by the way. And if it is, I have no idea what it means, but I just made it up because it's kind of a play on the word vanilla. Nevertheless, right? We're jumping back into this thing, right? Tangents aside. There's a reason that people don't like mirror matches, because the variety of the game is part of the spice of Age of Empires 2, right? It makes the game different than a game like chess, where everybody starts off with the same pieces. It's a game of perfect information, etc. Now, the balance for this game is very important. It's probably one of the major attributes of the game that's given it its longevity. It's insanely complex, yet it's also very balanced, which makes it difficult to figure out and so much fun to play for years upon years upon years. I'm bringing all this up because the new civilizations are, well, among the most unique in the game, and yet they're also some of the most broken in the terms of balance, right? The Bengalis and the Dravidians have some of the worst win rates in the game. Gurjaras and Hindustanis have some of the best. So, what I'm going to do in this video, right, again, I'm going to try to tell you what I think is going to happen, but I also want to give you my perspective in that I think if you're trying to forecast, right, what the changes are going to be, I think it's going to be a lot closer to trying to correct the balance in the game necessarily over the history. It does seem like the developers are trying to pay a bit more attention to history, so I don't think that they're just going to throw uniqueness, out of the car and right make it take the bus to work. But I do think balance changes, at least in this patch, are probably going to take the wheel for this leg of the journey. So that being said, let's jump into the Bengalis. Okay, so to figure out what's going to change, let's think about why the Bengalis struggle. I'd say there's about 3 or 4 reasons. One, they have a very vanilla Dark Age, and that means that because their eco bonus doesn't really start off until Feudal Age, you can lose out to aggressive civs. That's one. The second thing is they really lack unit diversity in the mid game. You lack camels and knights. Your crossbows don't have thumb rings, so you're going to struggle against crossbows that do. You're going to struggle against knights in many cases. And you're very, very reliant on strong but easily counterable units, right? That's third, in that, you know, even though your elephant units are taking less bonus damage, it's only 25%, and a lot of units in the game are kind of designed to do a lot of bonus damage. Pikemen are still going to be doing a lot of bonus damage, halberdiers as well. And because elephant archers, right, they have negative cavalry archer armor, 25% less damage, still not giving you that much. Skirmishers are doing a lot of damage to elephant archers, so they're still a decent counter. Plus the Ratha, their unique unit, which is a very strong unit, but it's countered both by skirmishers and the pike line. And it doesn't have the same it doesn't have the same speed as a cavalry archer, so it's not quite the unit you can hit and run. It doesn't have a very good attack rate until you get the Castle Age unique tech, which means you gotta have a castle to do it. I mean, I guess you already have a castle if you're making Ratha, but it's hard to get into unique units, especially on open maps. And while I do think the elephant units maybe haven't been figured out yet, I think that they're just an issue with this civilization, because other than that, you just don't have a lot of great options. So what are the possible balance changes? Well, one option is that they get a Dark Age bonus. To me, I think this seems a bit unlikely. The current civilization bonus giving you villagers upon aging up, I think can actually be pretty strong in the mid game. You can get up like 4 villagers on your opponent by the time basically like once you hit Castle Age. It's pretty decent. So I think that, you know, some Dark Age bonus, I don't know what it would look like, but my predict gem meter on this is something like 35%. I could see them adding a small something, but nothing big. Now, unit diversity in the mid game is another possible balance change, and I think this one kind of has legs. So the Ratha is like a combination of cavalry archers and knights. Now, my understanding is that the Bengalis, taking a little bit of history, actually had to import horses and possibly even camels, right? Getting a little into history here. It wouldn't surprise me if that bit of history the developers kind of honored, and that would really only leave their archers to be buffed. I still don't see both of these things happening, though. My predict gem meter on getting knights or camels or getting a good buff to their crossbows, I'd put it around 40%. Probably more likely than a Dark Age bonus, but not that much more. Now, what's the wall that they might be going for? Well, I could see something with gunpowder, right? Now, there's a problem here. The problem is that so many civilizations recently have been getting gunpowder bonuses, right? Hindustanis, you know, got their gunpowder units really buffed. Bohemians are a gunpowder civ. Burgundians are, right? I don't exactly know how the developers are going to do it, but I do think some kind of gunpowder bonus or ability is coming, right? Maybe it's getting access to bombard cannon, which really wouldn't address them in the mid game, but might really help their elephants as well. Some kind of hand cannon bonus, I don't know. Maybe, right? Maybe something about the Shatagni technology will be given to the Bengalis. Very possible, right? Either way, the prediction here is that the Bengalis, the balance change is going to be addressed by them getting some kind of gunpowder upgrade. My predict gem meter is reading this at a rather high 80%, right? I think a gunpowder change is coming to the Bengalis. All right, we move on to the Dravidians, right? So why did the Dravidians struggle? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, 0 mobility. Not only do you not get knights or camels, but your scout line is among the worst in the game. No last armor, no husbandry. It's just bad. No hussar. It's bad, 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 bad. The second thing is that both of their mid-game power units, right? Crossbow and elephant archers, because, by the way, your battle elephants are not that great either. Both of their mid-game power units are countered by skirms. Now, sure, you can make skirms of yourself, but, you know, somebody can easily go knights against you. Can't really do much about it. Somebody can go siege against you. Well, usually you might make, you know, some sort of mobile unit to come in and take out mangonels. Can't really do it with Dravidians. You're too slow, right? So lacking knights and camels in the mid-game, I think, is insanely tough for this civilization. It just feels like your opponent can open something like one range skirms, right? Beeline it to Castle Age, add knights, and you're just not going to make it through the mid-game. So, how do we fix them? Well, one option is to give them knights or camels. Now, I really think that this is going to happen, right? I don't know exactly which one it would be. Personally, I'd like to see knights, and I'll tell you why. It would give the Bengalis the unique distinction of being the only civilization without both knights and camels, and would give the Dravidians the distinction of being the only civilization on the Indian subcontinent with knights. So that would actually give a pretty good uniqueness to the civilizations and really differentiate Bengalis and Dravidians. Now, if I were the developers, I wouldn't give them great knights or anything, but the thing about Dravidians is that they already have the woot steel technology that affects their barracks and stable units. This tells JIMSTRADAMUS here that the developers have something in mind for the stable of the Dravidians. I don't think that they put it into the initial update, though, because they didn't want it to be too overpowered, because they were already, I think, kind of worried about the woot steel technology being too strong, because it's a really good technology. Those of you that don't know, you know, your stable and barracks units, I think it's all your infantry and cav units. I'm not sure about the Urumi swordsmen. Somebody could check me on that. Let me know in the comments below. But definitely your barracks and stable units, they ignore armor. So I think they were worried this might be strong. It wouldn't surprise me if there was a conversation, right, about having some more stable units in there, but they wanted to see how it play out. So the real question, right, is it going to be knights or is it going to be camels? Again, you've heard my opinion, but my predict gem meter, right, is reading this at, I'd say, a pretty good 75%. It's gonna knights or camels. I can't say either way on that one. My crystal ball doesn't read that much into the future, but it's gonna be one of them, right? Now, another option for them is to help their pretty slow late game, which I think that they have a real problem of dying to scorpions and onagers, and that's receiving the bombard cannon. I could see this as well, though I think it's less likely to me if Bengalis actually also get bombard cannon as an upgrade to them. So I will say this predict gem meter is kind of conditional on this, but I'd give this a 70% chance as well. I could really see the civilization getting some of that bombard cannon technology and being able to have a nice counter to those onagers when you might be going late game skirmishers with Dravidians. Alright, so we've hit the bottom of the barrel. Now let's go top of the pops, right? We're going to look at the Gurjaras. Might be the most overpowered civilization in the game right now. You have a really good eco, but the thing about Gurjaras I think that's insane is the unit variety. You probably have the best camels in the game. Shrivamsha riders are crazy against crossbows. Chakram throwers treat infantry units like they're in a bowling alley. It's insane. So, what's going to happen? Well, you'd ask me, and as I look into the future, I don't just look into the future, folks. I gaze into the future. And I'm thinking it's the Shrivamsha rider going to get nerfed here. I'm looking at two factors here in particular, right? We're going to make a more, my crystal ball, the clouds are leaving, right? Two things are going to get changed here, folks. The speed of the unit and the gold cost. Expect the speed to get lowered. I would anticipate about the same speed as a camel, maybe just a touch faster, right? Right now it's at 1.6 speed. 1.5 I could easily see, maybe even 1.45, one of those two. The specifics aren't important there, it's going to get slower. Now the gold cost. I'm thinking it's going to be at least plus 10, but maybe more. Maybe even something closer to plus 15 or plus 20. The idea here is going to be to make it that you have to choose between making camel riders and Shrivamsha riders. Right now, you can make both at a cost of 80 gold. That's like 5 more gold than a knight. That's a problem, right? This thing is going up. I could see 40. I could even see 45. Again, the costs, don't need to get into the specifics. The point is, I think those are going to be the two changes. I think we're going to see both of them. My predict gym meter is on fire. It's reading this as a whopping 90%, right? 90% on the predict gym meter. Wow. Now, what about the bonus damage from the camels? It's really, really, really insane to see plus 50% on the bonus damage of camels. You're doing, you know, it's really the heavy camel rider that goes pretty nuts with this. You're going from 18 bonus damage to 27. That's nuts. That's insane, right? I could see this really getting changed, getting lowered to something like 25%, 33% more. That would be the bonus damage. So definitely seeing the bonus damage getting lowered on the camels. My prediction meter, it's reading 60, maybe 65%. That's gonna be, I could see that change coming, folks, right? You heard it here first. Now, the Gurjaras, the other thing about them is they have really, really strong eco. They're totally overpowered on some maps. I played a land nomad game, and I felt like there was nothing I could do with all the sheep that were out there against my Gurjara opponent. I mean, shout out to him for knowing how to play the civ. It's crazy to think that 8 sheep adding about 28 food per minute can have such an impact, but it really does. I mean, if you think about it, let's say after about 30 minutes in the game, right, you've had the sheep in the mill, all 8 of them, that's like 840 extra food. That's quite a bit. So, I understand why it can give such an advantage. But, despite how much of an advantage that seems, I don't think it will be addressed. I think that the problem with it is that a small tweak can really make their Dark Age borderline impossible. Right, because you're really kind of reliant on that food income. I really think it's going to be their military that gets nerfed. I already talked about that. So my predict gym meter on the changes to the food bonus is pretty low, coming in at about 25% probability. All right, last civ, but not least, our other contender for most OP civ in the game. Hindustanis can do it all. Why? One, they have a fantastic eco bonus with cheaper villagers that get cheaper throughout the game. Second reason is they have probably the next best camels behind the Gurjaras. You have a unique unit that's a Huskarl Eagle hybrid. You have top 3 hand cannons. You have fully upgraded hussars. You have bombard cannons and siege engineers. You have cavalry archers that only miss Parthian tactics. You get champions. You get halbs, etc., etc. The point is that this civ is hard to beat. And the tough thing is, I think it's the hardest civilization to nerf. What we call the OG Indians, but before the Hindustanis, that were called the Indians, were definitely in need of a redesign very badly, but I think there's a reason it took so long. Now, I think we're much closer to getting this civilization where it needs to be, but while I think it will be nerfed, the real question is how. Let's start with the Ghulam, right? The unique unit, a Huskarl Eagle hybrid. There's a lot of complaints it's too strong, especially against the American civilizations. Personally, I think that's mainly true for Mayans because Aztecs have great infantry, and Incas are a civilization full of counter units. I could see a moderate change to the Ghulam, though. I don't think it will be that severe. I'm going to put this predict gym meter at 55%. I could see a reduction in base damage, and its anti-archer damage going up a bit so that it's good against, it's about the same as the unit it's meant to counter, but it might trade more evenly with eagles, and even Castle Age longswords will be able to beat it. I could see that change to the Ghulam. Now, what about the camels? Well, I actually think the Hindustani camels are in a really good place here. The OG Indians had decent camels, but the extra attack speed helps them do better against units that camels struggle against. And for a civilization that lacks knights, I think that that's just a great bonus. And so I really think the developers got it right with the Hindustani camels. My prediction meter for a camel change here is maybe around 15%. If anything, maybe the upgrade to Imperial Camel might be increased, but it was just recently decreased. I don't think that that's the real issue with this civilization. I think that any change to the camels is unlikely. Okay, but what about the hand cannons? This is tough. On the one hand, I think that 9-range hand cannons are insane, especially for a unit with the Hindustanis that has a civ bonus of extra armor and is not missing any archer line upgrades. Honestly, my own personal opinion, I really think Shatagni is a technology that should belong to the Bengalis, and the Hindustanis just keep their tanky hand cannoneers and get something else, right? I do think Hindustani hand cannons will get some kind of change. I think Shatagni is a nice spot, but what would it be? It's very possible that Shatagni just gets changed to perhaps being the armor upgrades, and what you might do is go back to say like +1 range as a civ bonus and getting extra armor, right? In Imperial Age, that would make them, kind of the same range as Janissaries. I don't know. I think that my prediction for a change of hand cannoneers, I'm reading about 55%. I think it's really, really hard, and I actually think a lot of that depends on what they're going to do with the Bengalis. Now, something you may remember from the OG Indians is that this civilization had Parthian tactics. They were one of the rare civilizations in the game with fully upgraded heavy cav archers. A major question here is, will Hindustanis get Parthian tactics back? I've been a part of the campaign for this, right? On this, I want to make a conditional predict gem. My predict gem meter, I'm seeing 90% on this, but it's conditional, right? Something else has to happen. The condition that has to happen is that the Shatani, right, technology or the hand cannons get nerfed, right? I think that if that happens, right, and it's not a civilization that's meant to more rely on the hand cannoneers, I think that they get Parthian tactics back and it comes back. Okay, is there any miscellaneous changes that I can see in the game? I'm gonna look at my crystal ball right now. What do I see? Oh, I do see one final change, right? This is not civ specific, but it's region specific. It's the elephant archers. We're going to see the elephant archers get a change. And let me make a very specific predict gem. I've got to read here. This predict gem meter is going off at 85% on this one, folks. Right now, I mentioned this earlier. The unit rather has -7 cavalry archer armor. I think that's going to be reduced. I think that it'll go down to something like maybe like a -4 or a -5. That makes a lot of sense. I could also see them going back to 3 base pierce armor. I think that would be a pretty big change, actually. The bonus damage, I think, is a much easier fix. It really just affects them the way that they trade with skirmishers. I think that the question is going to be really whether the developers want to really see what the upper limit on elephant archers in terms of quality are. I don't think that anybody believes that they're being used all that much. I definitely have a build order on this video, actually, of how to use Dravidian elephant archers, and I've talked about elephant archers maybe being part of the team game meta. I don't think they're there yet, but I think that we will see some changes to the elephant archers, buffing them at least a little bit, and you've got my predict gem meters as far as that goes. So those are the predictions, folks. The predict gems, right? I'm telling you, this is like, I mean, have you ever listened to gold? Because this is what it sounds like. Maybe not even gold, maybe platinum, right? I'm telling you, folks, right? These are my predictions. You know, I love to make predictions about things, and hey, I ride by them. I gave you the numbers. I made the predictions. Let's see what happens in the summer balance changes. All that being said, I really hope you enjoyed this video and my absurd sense of humor. And definitely, if you enjoyed it, please click a like. follow the channel, do all those things. Let's get after it. Get out on the ladder, play these civilizations, even the ones that ain't great. Show people that they're wrong, that Bengalis and Dravidians, they got some pride. And that being said, I'll catch you guys on the ladder. Parthian tactics, bring it back. Peace.